Hello and welcome to Aquarium Dilemmas. I'm your host, ScienceGal Aquatics. I'm Kerri, and this is my co-host,
Jesse, and welcome. Thank you for tuning in for another wonderful episode.
Yes, thank you so much.
Another wonderful kind of dilemma and just a really good talking point.
Yeah, I don't know if it's so much dilemmas per se, but it's definitely a topic that I would like to share, and it's just maybe dilemmas that I've learned from along the ways, just helpful little things that I've picked up that will hopefully help you, and just things that's made me overall, I think, a better fish keeper.
Yeah, ways to be a better fish keeper.
And it's all dependent. This is going to be some general advice from me, but I think the situation too is very specific to you and what kind of fish keeper that you want to be.
Well, and it's good for the brand new hobbyist, I believe, and just a reminder from the hobbyist that's been in it forever, just always being able to think about things again and not get stuck in one train of thought, so to speak.
Yeah, it's just some things that have definitely changed the way I think of things. And some of it we've probably gone over more than once or twice. Some of it might be a little repetitive, but like you said, you can never hear it enough, the basics. No matter really the topic, going back to the basics is always a good idea. So it might be a little repetitive and you might agree, and you've definitely learned through some of these things. But I think no matter if it's a big epiphany moment that I've had or something that I've just through a mistake or an accident, I've kind of discovered like that might have not worked out initially how I thought, but I've definitely learned something in this. So I don't really know how to just things that's made me a better fish keeper that I hope I can share with you that you can take something from to be a better fish keeper too. Pass along or ponder yourself. Just some general tips.
Yeah, well, have some internal dialogue. Why would you either do it this way or not do it this way? That really is the dilemma right there, because it is just our opinion. So the dilemma is, what does it look like from the other side?
Yeah, and the first little piece of advice I have, it's probably something that you hear or read or someone will definitely tell you, is patience when it comes to fish keeping. And even though you hear it all the time, I can never be told enough. Have a little patience. Don't rush things. Because if you rush things, it never works out. I mean, I guess I shouldn't say never, but generally speaking for me, when I rush things and try to help the process along, it's just, I usually have a moment where I sit back and it's like, if I would have just took a couple steps back, I could have avoided this situation. But patience.
Well, and that's one thing I don't have.
Yeah,
so
I don't. I've learned.
The compliment to that patience thing is when I have to have patience, then I need to do research or do something on something else, or research what I am working on even further, because otherwise I am going to try to rush what
oh my goodness
what we're getting done.
And I don't know if you can relate to this, my friend that is listening, but sometimes I get a thought in my head and I get a little obsessive about it and I can't think of anything else but what that particular, I'll get stuck on something. And you can't talk me out of it. You can't convince me otherwise. And I think it's the best idea that I have ever thought. And sometimes I will have to admit, I have some pretty good ones, but sometimes I don't. And definitely just taking a chill break and reading on the topic and maybe getting some advice, even though I just said I'm hard-headed and I might not listen. I have learned when I have these thoughts that I'm like, I can't get out of my head, and I'm just, I want to do this so bad. I just think this is the bee's knees of ideas, that maybe even if it is, just do a little bit of extra research before you do that. From tank mates to DIY projects, just some of them, again, have worked out fabulously, and sometimes they don't work out great, and I've learned a lesson, and sometimes it has been not good at all. And even when it comes to just making small decisions or big decisions, just have a little patience, or a breeding pot project maybe that you're working on, or trying to rush through a tank setup, trying to get it all done real quick because you totally just bought a fish that you didn't really know that you were going to bring home at all, and you know nothing about, and you're trying to rush to set up a tank. And again, sometimes it works, but sometimes it's just patience goes a long way in this hobby.
Mine is conversely related to yours, because it is probably the tank setup and the DIY projects. Mm-hmm. You do something, and then you have an idea, and then I feel that I have to have it done like right then. And I need to take a step back, and you need to as well, because
we get really excited.
Well, when you give me a project, I get excited for the project, but I also feel the pressure because you've already purchased now the the pressure's on me. Yeah. The pressure is totally on me. I have to, and I need to take that step back and take that little bit of research and that patience, get everything right, and basically tell you to hold your horses.
Yeah. And sometimes, and I guess going a little further, us as a couple, we have learned how to do projects a little bit better, because I'm the type that I like to sometimes, not all things, but sometimes on bigger projects, I like to talk it out. I like to plan it out. And sometimes that doesn't always mean that I want it done now. Maybe I want it done in a month or two or next year. I just want to kind of like get your opinion. And it goes the same way on fish projects, especially when we build stands. We need to communicate a little bit, because sometimes it's a perfect fit. Sometimes it's a little snug of a fit. And you're like, maybe I shouldn't have just thrown that together in like 15 minutes. Or setting up a tank, because I've impulse bought something that you're like, I had all the supplies. I had the empty tank. So I justified this purchase because I had everything. Did I have everything set up and cycled and ready to go like the responsible way I should have? No. I came home and threw it all together because I needed to get them acclimated. And taking a step back on no matter what, and just having a second opinion, a conversation, doing a little research on the project we're working on, it does go a long way.
Yes.
Just patience. And like I said, sometimes on certain things I am really good about taking a step back and kind of planning it out. But there's other things that will pop up. I'll just get this spontaneous idea, and I get real hung up on that idea until it's done. It just depends. So I have really learned that when I'm overly excited about something and I want it right then, just do I really need to do this? Because like I said again, sometimes it works and sometimes it don't.
Well, on the research part of it, do your research and don't do it all from one source. Mm-hmm. Do multiple sources. Don't ever believe, especially with all the media that's out there now.
Well, even us. Don't just take our word for it. This might work for us, but it might not work for you in your area. So it's good to get opinions.
Yeah. I mean, I could sit here and be super confident about anything, but is it right? Not necessarily. Uh-huh. Always do your research and get from multiple different sources. And then that way you'll find a common thread, a common theme, and then you'll be able to find what kind of works for you and your situation, because your situation will probably and could be very different than everything you've read about. Yeah. So you kind of want to find that common ground that you have in common with everything that you've researched too, as well.
Yeah. Because There's been things that I have researched that I probably over-researched. And until you actually do it firsthand, you just don't always know. It's one thing to read it, and I'm the type of, even in school, I just learned better when I could do it myself. I might have stumbled along the way, but generally, if I tried it out, I just learned better than if I just read it. But you still want to be prepared in the sense you want to know, you want to read. But you don't want to, I don't know how to say this per se, but you definitely want to do your research. You want to get multiple opinions, but you don't want to keep getting opinions till you've talked yourself out or you've researched to the point where you're just never going to start or you're never going to keep that. You want to get a healthy, a healthy dose of knowledge from some good resources, some good trusted fish keeping friends. But
well, it could be people, it can be videos, it could be journals, it could be your club, it could be somebody you know. When we say resources, we mean use everything.
Yeah, whatever you have available. But I'm the type of person, too, that when I do have a project that I don't know, I'm back and forth. Some things I'm really quick and I just jump right in it and I'm really impulsive. And then there's some times where I'll research to a point where I'm just over researching and I may be kind of either a little bit scared or there's something that I'm just not. And if it's something I really want to keep, a new fish that I really want to try to branch out and keep, sometimes just going out, you're prepared. You need to trust yourself. I've done the research I need to do. I feel confident. I have my tank set up. The parameters are as good as I feel like I can get them to best suit this fish. And sometimes it's good to get that advice, but it's also good just to do it.
Oh, yeah.
But definitely read about it, talk to someone, read a journal, join a fish club, all of that. And that's another thing that's just overall made me a better fish keeper, as long as I've learned to research the topics because I know about these topics now, but joining a fish club, realizing that there's a community on YouTube and different platforms out there. There's fellow fish people out there that just are so in love with this hobby that I just did not realize there's a community out there that love this hobby just as much as me. And getting outside of I really appreciate having those moments with my dad where we get to talk about fish, but having this other world that I just didn't know about for so long has just leaps and bounds to just levels I never could have even realized, has made me a better fish keeper by just having friends and buddies and a club. The club we have is a couple hours away, so I don't get to go to every single meeting, but going and interacting and talking, going to the swaps and the auctions and the events I can, has just introduced me to information that I would have never known I needed to know unless I heard someone talk or strike up a conversation with me that I was like, I had no idea. And you just fall in love with a different avenue of the hobby that you just never knew about because there's people that you can talk to. It's not just me. And I appreciate the online stuff. There's so much stuff you can read, but there's something about having just a fish keeping buddy. Like even you being into the hobby with me has made me a better fish keeper because there's a buddy that I'm like, hey, you want to go to the fish store? Even if we don't buy anything, it's something we can do together, and it makes me a better fish keeper because I have a buddy that loves fish too, let's go talk. So just, yes, getting out of my comfort zone because being social isn't something that I'm like, I'm not the social butterfly, but it's made me more confident as a person just even outside of fish keeping because I can go up and strike a conversation with someone that I don't know, but we have that common thread of fish. And by the end of it, we're best friends. And I've taken so much information out, even if I don't keep that fish. It's just like, wow, I didn't know that.
Oh, yeah. I mean, the plethora of information that is out there is unreal. Mm-hmm. And I believe the human interaction itself is the best. That's what works for me. I'm old school. Mm-hmm. Anyone that listens to this podcast knows I generalize everything. I am complete old school, new to the hobby. That's why I'm her buddy. She gets to put her opinion at me, and then sometimes I go, I don't think so, Scooter. That's not working for me. This is not my jam. This is not my idea for what you're thinking here. And that goes into the fish tanks. I've just learned a lot about the patience and really just the setup and the time, and that there should be an order to the way you do things. Mm-hmm. And that's where the research and patience comes in. And then you know that order, and you know your nitrogen cycle. And when you know all that, then you can start to build a really good game plan for how you want that tank to ultimately look, or that it's going to take stages to do it. Mm-hmm. It's going to take time. It's not going to be a wham, bam, thank you, ma'am process.
Yeah. Yeah, I think from one of the biggest things that I've taken away since through the years I've kept fish tanks for so long is when I was a kid, and granted, I was a little kid, so the thinking I have, hopefully as an adult, I hope is a little deeper. But I just kind of thought that you could just throw some fish in there. I love the fish. I would go to the fish store and pick out with my dad. I would just pick out whatever I thought was pretty and put it in the tank. And the focus will always be the fish for me. I love the plants and all of that, but what got me into this hobby was I just overall loved guppies, but I would go pick out whatever I wanted and put in that tank. And I guess you can always do whatever, but now that I know, like you said, the nitrogen cycle, I know that there's a whole world that you don't even see that goes into this, that you want to have your bacteria kind of build up. There's so much that goes into it that can help you out that I find fascinating. That, again, I love the fish. That's what got me into fish keeping, was the fish, but realizing that it's an ecosystem. It's a little piece of nature that you can watch and grow, and there's more to it than just keeping your fish alive.
Oh, there's a lot more to it. I mean, that's the part that really fascinates me, is all especially even in the outside tubs, it's all the microscopic organisms and the bugs and everything that's inside this box that a lot of times we can't see at all.
Yeah.
That is really changing the dynamic of the water and everything in there. So to me, that's probably my tip, is learning that nitrogen cycle, learning about that kind of stuff. And that will build your patience and your research while you're deciding what you're going to do substrate wise, and learning about why you would put, certain levels of substrate in first and then plant certain things, and take your time in learning it that way. And ultimately in the end, you'll feel accomplished. But in the beginning, it's going to feel like you are just, somebody's got a boat anchor and you ain't got this done.
Yeah, because I've gone through periods of love, and I wouldn't say hate, but I've definitely gone ups and down on the love scale through this hobby. And as I've gotten more experienced with keeping fish and researching different topics, I feel like I fall more and more and more in love with the hobby. But there was periods where I knew just enough to kind of get me in trouble. I knew some things, but I didn't know enough on that topic to really know what I was doing, if that kind of made sense. So I would set up a tank, and I knew I was supposed to wait, but I didn't know what I was waiting for. I knew you're supposed to do water changes, but I didn't know what I was taking out besides just taking out the fish poop. That's all you do on a water change, is just take out the fish. I didn't know the water chemistry and why the water and chemistry and the parameters are so important. I'd put my hand in the tank. I'm like, it doesn't feel too hot. Okay. It doesn't feel too cold. The heater lights work. I knew some things, but not. And so then I would over clean, because when I would do water changes, I would it was whenever I remember. And so I would scrub down everything and kill the cycle. But I didn't know about this cycle. I knew I had to wait for something. I just waited for the algae to grow on the glass, and then it was cycled. I didn't know. So I tended to do a lot of mistakes because I don't know. It led to a lot of problems and a lot of mistakes. And through those problems and mistakes, I'm thankful that I stuck with it. And through conversations, through things here and there, I would kind of stumble on something that would lead me into, and I would find out, but I would get discouraged. And then I would hate my tank, or I was just like over the hobby. And really, I've had to learn again with patience and research that sometimes the best thing for my aquariums, honestly, is getting my hands out of the tank. Just enjoying the process and not rushing. It doesn't have to be. For me, sometimes it's best to wait and get the tank set up. I always recommend, don't impulse buy fish. It's always best to take your time. But again, with saying that, I'm guilty of it. So hopefully I will say I'm better at getting everything ready now. I know there's a fish trip coming up, so in like 2 weeks, so I'm getting everything ready and kind of shuffled around so I can have the tank space to bring home new fish. But sometimes, honestly, the best, like with the silver arowana, that impulse buy, even though it was a learning back and forth experience, I made some mistakes. I got better. We got to know each other. Was not prepared for the size of tank that we needed. Luckily,
that was a hardball curve for me because I was just getting into the hobby at that point.
Yeah.
And then you come home with these two fish that I did not realize were going to be monster fish.
So I guess even that, I wouldn't recommend you doing that. But in that, impulse buy was one of the best things I've done because it's really stretched my knowledge, and I've done what I needed to do, and he's getting large and in charge. But you kind of got to trust yourself to know when you've taken that necessary research, that necessary patience, and to trust yourself to kind of branch out, because you're never going to evolve your fish keeping skills unless, honestly, I think you've made a few mistakes so you can personally learn from, so you know where you need to build up your fish keeping. Because I need to learn to turn off a light. I do. Turning off a light is very challenging for me, whereas someone else, it might be overfeeding. So in those mistakes individually, you really do.
Well, and that's just two more tips right there. The overfeeding and the lights.
Yeah.
Is just two more good tips that, whether you're new or not, everybody is probably guilty of it at some point. You have that one favorite tank that you think they beg, you give them too much. It's just, it is what it is. I guarantee almost everybody's guilty of it.
Yeah. But in those sometimes moments where it seems like I'll come down to the fish room and everything I touch is not working. Either I have a tank that something's happened and I lost a fish, or I overflow. It just seems like I have those weeks. And in the beginning, when I was losing a lot of fish because I didn't even know I was the one doing the things wrong, it was me being too overzealous with things, that I don't want you to get so discouraged that you leave the hobby completely. You might need to take a step back, maybe not buy any fish for a while, do some extra research. But again, in saying that, trust yourself to know when you are ready to maybe take that chance it might not work out. I might get I'm not really experienced with cichlids, but I love cichlids. I like to learn about cichlids. And there might be a time where I feel like I think I'm ready to do this. And I might lose a few, but I can't get so discouraged that I don't want to give up completely, I guess is the point of all of that. You're going to make mistakes. Things are going to happen. You might know the textbook forward, backwards, and sideways. You're still going to lose a fish. It's going to be devastating. Some stuff's going to happen. And the thing I've learned to make me a better fish keeper through all of that is take a break, try to figure out what you did, and just don't get too discouraged.
Well, the not getting discouraged is a good point. we can have 2 tanks in this room set up almost 100% identical, and they still not need the same requirements.
Yeah.
That was probably one of the, to make me a better fish keeper, I thought we just had to do water changes at a certain percentage every week, blah, blah, blah. No. Every tank that we have in here, even some that are almost 100% identical, same fish, substrate for the most part, they do not require the same amount of maintenance. The amount of beneficial bacteria and things that are in there is completely different from tank to tank.
Yes, and that was a big thing I've definitely learned through the years as I've gotten more tanks. Because in the beginning, I just had one, so I didn't know better. I just, like I said, I did water changes when I remembered, and then I went through a phase where I did water changes every week, and I didn't have a clue. But I only had that one tank. And then as I've gotten older and I've kept more tanks, it's definitely something I agree. I've definitely learned that lesson because I would treat them all the same. No matter what fish was in there, whatever tank mates I decided to put in there, whatever. When I was learning, there was more substrates out there than just the pink and purple aquarium gravel. I would treat them, and plants too, when I got into plants. I would just treat everything the same. I would want to water change everything the same amount, no matter if it was a 10-gallon or a 55-gallon. I would just take the same amount of water out and call it good. I would gravel vac each tank, and I've learned, like you said, each tank, they could sit right next to each other. You could set them up, the exact, do everything practically, and they will be 2 different environments. You can keep the same fish in there. It's just 2 different environments, and they will be different.
Oh.
They might be very similar, but they're still different. And that was one of those epiphany moments that I don't know when I learned it or what triggered it or what made me even realize it. But the fact that each aquarium is its own little piece of nature, and they're just different.
And another one I think is you do not have to have the biggest, best, and newest products on the market as far as lights. Heaters is kind of a controversial one. You want to have a good heater if the tank does need to be heated. You do not want it to go bad because it could possibly destroy everything. But as far as lights go and lids and some of that stuff, depending on what fish you have in there, you don't have to have the best, fanciest lights, the fanciest lid.
No.
That to me is all
I think it's
circumstantial. Depends on whether you're doing one tank and that's your showpiece tank for your house, or you have multiple tanks and they're just for you.
Yeah. I think that, like, I tend to be more into the breeding aspect of the hobby right now. But in the past, when I've had one tank and things like that, I've went through phases where I just thought when I just had the Walmart at the time. We have relatively different pet stores kind of close now, but at the time it was mainly just Walmart, and I didn't know any different between products, so I just assumed I'd get the most expensive of everything, and that was the best I could do. And sometimes that is. Like, I recommend... Like, I think we had the Fluval 4 or FX4 canister filter for the Arowana tank, and I really like that. But I like the Tetra Whisper filters on the hang on a back filter, and I like the sponge filters. So one is really expensive and one's not so expensive, and I like to modify it and play around with things. And with the lights, I've had $100 lights to clamp on lights that I've sold the light bulbs out of the lamps in the living room. And sometimes a more expensive light is what you need if you have really invested in plants and you need a specific plant light and they're high light. But sometimes messing around, you have more low light plants. It's just that specific tank's needs. And some fish, I kind of go by the rule of thumb that all fish jump at some point, but some fish are definitely jumpers. So you might need a more expensive lid versus a light on that tank. So if you might have more of a nocturnal type fish that don't need high light or something. So it's just comes down to knowing that fish's needs. If you're going to have more than one fish in there, learning that not everything can live on flake food. There was a time in my life that I thought no matter what, they would be good with a handful of flake food till it was like just so much food. And the plecos at the bottom, their job was to clean it up and they didn't need anything else. And that was totally wrong. And you really do have to put in the research to know if that fish needs a more expensive lid or a more expensive light, or it needs this type of diet, and maybe that's more expensive than you thought. Because I know the silver arowana, I thought I could feed it no problem, and it gets fed quite nice, but there's a significant chunk that goes into keeping that fish fed over the guppies. So it just depends on that fish is in that tank and what you want, because I know that my breeding tanks don't look all that nice compared to some, but the fish and the shrimp are doing fantastic. So it just comes down to knowing the fish you want to keep and what kind of fish keeper you want to be.
Yeah, what you're going for. Are you going for that wonderful showpiece tank that when people walk in they are stunned, and you are probably trying to invite people into the hobby with that one tank and get people interested? Or are you breeding a bunch of fish because you love the fish? Or is it just for you and you want your fish to have their happiest life, and if algae is what they require, or their tank needs to be a little tanned up or a little dirty, then that's what it's going to be.
Yeah. And I've also, through the years, another phase when I found YouTube, the community on YouTube, the Fish Fam, FishTube, all the great people. I had I think we had four tanks for my research for school and my goldfish tank. And when I found this community, I got bit hard by multiple tank syndrome. And I wanted as many tanks as I could get my hands on. We were yard sailing, shopping at PetSmart, going to I just wanted tanks. And I was maintaining them well. They were doing good, but I needed to kind of scale back to a more manageable. I couldn't spend with the family and everything else I have going on. I couldn't devote that much time to maintenance, and I didn't give it any thought because I was like, I can do it. But at the time, I didn't have anything. I had a bucket and an aquarium vac, but I was refilling the tanks 1 gallon at a time with a drinking water 1 gallon container, and it was taking ages to refill and do these water changes. I was having a good time listening to the chats and everything going down, but I needed to break down some tanks and make it to what was manageable for me, so I wasn't getting stressed out, because by the end of it, it was causing just stress that was it wasn't doing anything for me for the love of the hobby. So we have a lot of tanks now compared to most that we talk to, but it's perfect for me because it's just enough where I have plenty of aquariums to enjoy. And even though I thought that I wanted just this massive room, I wanted to just be this, it wasn't something that I could keep everything the way I wanted to keep it.
Well, you couldn't keep everything healthy and maintained.
I couldn't keep up with it. And as much as I love the hobby and I want that many fish tanks, I needed to take a step back. And now like I said, I have 20 something in the ponds outside. I still have multiple tanks of guppies. I love it to death. But me being a better fish keeper, I needed to know that I needed to take a little bit of a step back and just keep the ones that I could maintain with the schedule and keep everything else going around the house. The dogs still needed taken care of, the cat, the kids, the family. And I feel like just having that conversation with myself that's like, you don't need 50. Let's try 25. We'll compromise. Made me a better fish keeper. Even though I don't have as many tanks as, I ideally thought I wanted, it's perfect for me now. It's a good compromise. And I think that made me a better fish keeper. And another thing in the beginning too, when I first realized there is as many products out there as there was, I thought that there is a quick fix for everything. I went through this point where instead of taking the algae out, I would try to put something in, and I was chasing numbers, and I thought there was just quick fixes with different things. And there's a lot of products out there that I recommend and I really enjoy, but I didn't need to buy every single product that I stumbled upon and wanted to use them all at the same time.
Oh,
that was not so, along with researching your fish and your tank requirements and everything, research the products. You don't just go in there. It's like, oh, this is new, I want to try it. If you don't have a reason, look into that too. Because I wasted so much money, and then I would just use it how I thought it needed to be used. I didn't read the directions either. So the products I did like, I was blowing through them because I was just like eyeballing everything, and it was just a waste of money, a waste of time, and some things, a water change and a little time with your tank will do more for that tank than rushing out there and buying something for a quick fix. Again, there's products out there that I love, but I didn't have to buy everything on the market.
Yes. The goal of this one is just to explain and refresh about how we can all be better fish keepers. And it does boil down to research and patience, because the research will tell you whether you're wasting your money or on, do I really need this or not? The things that I love to waste money on is rehabbing filters, changing out putting different biomedia in, sponges, things like that, getting rid of all those inserts and not having to just keep buying them and buying and wasting your money there. And all of that does just fall back under research and patience with your heaters, your lights, even learning to reseal your aquariums. There's tons of things that all can make you a better fish keeper. But in our opinion, it boils down to your research and your patience.
Yeah, that's the number one thing. Because with research, I found the nitrogen cycle, and just researching, I stumbled upon the community, and with the community, I stumbled upon the fish club, and just allowing yourself the time and patience and the forgiveness to be a better fish keeper was one of the biggest. Because again, going through all the years, sometimes I would just beat myself up to the point I just didn't want to do it anymore. I was like, I'm doing all this work, I'm trying, and my fish are just dying. It's just always ugly. It's a mess. And just, I don't want anybody to fall out of the hobby, when sometimes doing a little research goes a long way, and not just assuming that you can set up a tank in one day and every time you go to the fish store, you pick up a fish and it's going to automatically get along with everything else. Sometimes you just got to learn about those fish's individual needs. And I'm telling you, that was one of the biggest lessons I learned, was just stop going to the fish store, picking out fish I thought was pretty, and then they would just automatically get along. They would be best friends with everything else I had in the tank. And that's not. Sometimes you might need, if you want to keep these two specific fish and you've done your research and you just want to keep them and you think you know everything you can do, sometimes you might need to set up another tank. And that was when I realized some of these things. It was like, I felt bad too, looking through the years. It's like, why did I keep those two fish together? What made me think that was okay? But having the forgiveness for myself to realize At least you know now. At least you took the time, you stuck with the hobby, you found the information you needed. It might have took you some time. You didn't do it on purpose, but at least you know now.
On the flip side of that, there is some things you can keep together that are generally not accepted. There's some things that can be done because fish do have their own little bit of personality, quote unquote.
But again, that's time and experience and giving yourself the patience to learn and grow as a fish keeper.
Exactly. And I feel that the research and the patience topic is very, very generalized and broad, and we definitely need to do some more episodes on the research part of like, what do we research? Why do we research? And that leads into the patience anyway, the patience to research this one topic till you're like, wow, why did I do that?
And I can say research all day long, and I'm still guilty. I can tell you all day long, don't impulse buy fish. But again,
it's going to happen.
It's going to happen. Just if you're the type like me that has multiple tanks, I've learned that it's good to have always one just on standby, just in case. That's something I've learned through the years. But there was a point where I only had one fish, and I didn't know better. And I had puffers.
Well, you got to have that one tank for quarantine anyway.
But at this time, I had a 30-gallon bow front, and I think it was like a parrot cichlid and puffer fish and rope fish. I think I had some molly. Like, I just had a concoction of a community that I don't know how it lasted as long as it did. And I loved it. I was so proud of that tank. But looking back over some of the things that was like, well, that's probably why I lost it so soon. And it was like, just, I feel so bad with some of those, but at least I know now. At least I know now. And again, like you said, there are combinations. My dad somehow miraculously keeps neon tetra and huge angelfish together. I cannot do that. I don't know how he does that. Something always just, I lose the tetra. But it's his favorite tank. And we've grown. I love talking to my dad back and forth, and we've both come a long way. And I think the reason it works for him is because he knows what to do for that tank. He just knows what to do. And that's learning that individual tank along with the research. And some people out there are like, what's wrong? Like, I do that all the time. For me, there's just some combinations that I have trouble more than others, and I don't try it anymore. But I think the point of all of this with this conversation is forgiveness and patience and research and just taking the time to gain the experience. You don't have to go from experience or from beginner to experience in one day.
No.
I'm the type of person that will want to. I think there's some topic that my 10-minute crash course in the back room is good enough. I'm an expert. But that's not the case with fish keeping. There's always that exception to the rule that I impulse bought that arowana and it worked out. But it has been a lot of growing and tears and pondering and trying new things, but I took the time out. I found the bigger tanks I needed that I didn't know I needed that quickly. I knew I needed a big tank, but I didn't know I needed it that quickly. So there's just certain things that patience, forgiveness, understanding with yourself. This hobby is fantastic. I highly recommend it, but you are not going to come out without mistakes. I tell you, there's been times where I've been doing a water change and I forgot I was doing a water change and then I had a mess on the floor and you just like, oh my gosh, I gotta hurry up and put water in the tank, and the fish luckily were fine. But you're gonna have moments, mistakes, and some of those moments did not work out, and in others, it was just through the mistakes I learned a lesson, or I learned that's like, well, maybe that didn't work out, but this accident over here totally accidentally did, and I would have never thought of that. And it worked out fantastic. So just again, research, understanding, forgiveness, patience, learning why. We can tell you don't overfeed, but taking the time out, getting more, like you said earlier, getting a couple of people's opinions, or researching it out on the computer, or reading a book, or whatever you learn from. Learn why, besides just listening to us, why that's, you don't want to overfeed your fish. I have trouble turning off my lights, but understanding why it's important to have time, that light off, not only for the fish need time to rest during that darker period. If you want your guppies to give birth, they give birth for me more often when I turn off the light, or having that respiration period for your plants. You need photosynthesis and that respiration. And that's just by simply turning off the light. So just going, it might be simple, but just taking that extra time to research why you want a water change, when you want to do certain things on your tank, knowing why. For me, the best thing I could done for a while is just stop over cleaning everything. It's just that research, like you said, on so many, it's not just researching about your fish's needs, which is important, their diet, their parameters, but just all this stuff that you don't even see, that you can't see. There's a whole world of just microscopic things that are important to your tank that through research I found out that I didn't know about. And it's more than just putting fish in your tank that you find pretty and taking care of them by feeding them fish flakes.
Oh, yeah.
And the more you learn, the more I fell deeper. And I liked the fish hobby, but I love the fish hobby now because I know so much more about it on a deeper level. Do I know everything? No, there's topics I'll learn next week when we go to the Triple Crown, and the week after that when we go to Aquashella Dallas, that I'll strike up a conversation that I don't even know I'm going to have yet and learn something. That last one, we just learned chit-chatting with someone walking to the hotel. We were just talking fish, and there's all kinds of things that you can go down the rabbit hole and learn about that will make you a better fish keeper.
Absolutely. I 100% agree with that. And I think we're going to have to do a little mini series of research topics.
Yeah, there's all kinds of things to talk about. And I'm glad that we get to talk about it.
That is the dilemma, the research topics. We could do a mini series on research topics.
Yeah, and I guess like to leave on one simple little helpful tip is you can never have too many fish buckets.
You can never have too many 5-gallon buckets.
Yeah, just never. But I hope this conversation helped you, or you have someone you can share this with. We didn't talk about this beforehand, so I feel like it was a fun conversation to have. And hopefully you can take something from it.
Yes. Time, patience, research, and don't believe everything. And failure, especially for the beginner fish keeper, as I am myself, is part of the hobby. To not get discouraged and learn from your mistakes. And was it really a mistake, or did you just not know?
Yeah.
Sometimes you just don't know. You didn't research it enough, or it was an unforeseen thing. It happens.
Yeah.
And to be able to come back and do something better the next time is what makes it totally rewarding.
Yes. Yes. Because I know that the cutest thing I will ever see is a tank full of little baby guppies. And I am, I can't tell you how much I love this hobby and how much those little baby guppies mean. They're so tiny and they're so cute, and I just love them so much. And whatever brings you into this hobby, whether you're a beginner or this is something you've heard 50 times over again, like you said, have forgiveness with yourself, patience, research, however is best for you. And sometimes you can read and talk about it and just have the trust in yourself that you know when you're ready, and maybe try that new fish you've been reading about. Just go ahead and do it if you feel like you're ready.
Yep. Go for it. Both feet in.
Because sometimes I'll either be a little bit too spontaneous or I'll take too much time. So if you feel like you've done all your research and you need that little extra push to try, here you go. Go try it.
Find that middle ground and go for it.
But again, thank you so much. This is some of the best times, is just sitting here talking these conversations over with you and these topics. So thank you for listening. And again, if you want to check out this podcast and watch it, we always invite you to go over to ScienceGal Aquatics over on YouTube and check out the membership page where you can watch this podcast. And if you want to check out ScienceGalAquatics.com, you're always invited there too.
Yep. You can check out how we care and keep for all the different types of fish that we have in our fish room, and some of the stuff that we do.
And the stuff of the future.
Yep.
The stuff we're reading about now. Oh, I can't wait. We'll share it with you soon. So thank you so much for being here and listening. And until the next time.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.